Sit in a comfortable position. Cross your legs, clasp your hands, fingers into fingers. Close your eyes. Observe your normal and natural breath. Breath is our Guru. Breath is our Brahma. And breath is our Vishnu. Take 3 minutes of meditation. Last 30 seconds. With your gratitude to Brahmarshi Pitamaha Patriji and Swarnamala Madam, and gratitude to Lok Sangrampa, who is giving us such amazing and beautiful knowledge, spiritual knowledge to us. By this, we are knowing more about ourselves each and every day. Thank you to this beautiful Swadhyaya group that we have. Gently place your palms on your eyes at the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly blink your eyes and open them. Nice. So today Deepika is going to tell us chapter 23.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful meditation, Madhvi. Yesterday, I didn't know that you had a full moon meditation and that too with Swaruparani, madam. I would have loved to attend. I missed it. Today morning only I saw the message. So
I missed yesterday also, day before yesterday also, I sent it in the group.
Day before yesterday you posted?
Yeah.
I don't know. Then I missed. Actually, today morning only I saw that. Then I was saying, "Oh no, I missed it." Like because whenever I connect with your sister's meditation, I go into deep meditation and I feel nice. So I was thinking, "Oh, I missed yesterday."
Yeah, actually, I'm planning to have every week one session with her meditation.
Wow, very good, Madhvi.
Definitely, yeah, I would love to.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Honey, me time zone.
Me too.
Marie, I don't know. Your time zone may be little. Bala, I mean, Central time is good అనుకుంటా అండి కానీ Eastern time 11 అవుతుంది.
Okay.
Yeah. Because she has, I mean, amazing amount of energy, Sama. I mean, like if you just sit with her and then I talk to her when my energies are down, I feel so energetic. So I know my energy source where to get it from.
Wow, good. Nice. You have somebody to lean on.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so coming back to this You Forever. So the previous lesson, as this is a powerful lesson and as the author only has said, we suggest that you read and reread this lesson. Perhaps it is the most important lesson yet. If you follow the instruction, you will find that you can have almost anything you want. What do you want? The choice must be yours, for you can have whatever it is that you desire. A pointer, money, success on this earth, and then eclipse, and start all over again. Or will you choose spirituality, purity, and service to others? It may mean poverty or near poverty on this earth, which after all is only a speck of dust floating in the void. But after this short life, there comes the greater world, where purity and spirituality is the coin of the realm, and where money, the currency of the world of earth, has no value. The choice is yours. So author is saying, so we have to go through this lesson again and again. I'll just want to touch base the points, 5 points which we did. The power of mind. So I hope it's okay if I review that lesson once more.
Yeah, please go ahead, Deepika. Yeah, power of now is always good to remember, remind yourself.
Yes, I thought once more we can just go. So here is saying that the mind can give us all that we ask if we will let it. There are immense powers latent within the subconscious. Unfortunately, most people are not taught how to contact the subconscious. We function at 1/10 consciousness and at most 1/10 of our abilities. By aligning the subconscious on our side, we can achieve miracles as did the prophets of old. So he's saying we only use the 1/10 And also in one more Spiritual India magazine I had read long before. I don't remember which issue, like almost years ago. So they were saying we only are using 2% of what is available with the subconscious mind. 98% we are not at all using. Only we are using 2%. So for 2% of life only, if we feel so much, joy, and we love life so much. So if we get in touch with the 98% of our subconscious, then we can imagine how our lives will be. That's what it was written in that magazine. I wanted to read that lines also, but I tried finding out that book, but I couldn't get that. So I thought I can just tell you once. And then coming back to this book, so he's saying, use your brain, use your mind, use the great possibilities of the subconscious. There are certain inviolable steps which always must be followed. So 5 steps, what he's saying is, first, decide precisely what you want. Be absolutely definite. You must know what you want. You must say what you want, and you must visualize it. What exactly do you want? You must state exactly what it is that you want. You must visualize it, picture it in your mind, and hold the picture firmly before you. So he's saying it should be specific. We should be like, if for example, if it's a money, it should be a definite sum, not some vague value or something like that. But again, he's saying, if you are wise enough, you'll make a choice, better choice, not to bother about money and think of becoming like Gandhi, Buddha, Christ, and everybody. So you will strive to gain virtues which will be of use to you when you live this life. So he's saying we have to strive to become, gain values and virtues and not go behind money. And so the second step, what he says is, after first decide, when we decide, then the second step is, it is the rule of give and take. He's saying once you want to get something, you should be ready to forgive something. So he's saying either 1/10 of the money if you're thinking of money, or helping others or something. In return, we need to be prepared to give. So it's only a give and take policy, he's saying. And then the third point, he's saying, when you want money, or this car, or a new husband, or a new wife, it is not enough to say that you want it sometime in the indefinite future. So he's saying specific time you are expecting. And he's saying it is not possible, like, it is absurd to say that you want it immediately, because there are physical laws which cannot be broken. It is not possible for God to drop a gold brick into your waiting hands, because it will probably crush a few toes, he's saying. So he's saying you be specific with the time limit. It must be physically feasible, he's saying. And then the fourth step is, he's saying, what are you going to do with what you get? So he's just saying, it needs to have some particular goal or ambition, or some something that you definitely use that for. So we have to be specific of what we are going to use or do with the things we get. For example, if we get a car, where do you want to drive, or something like that. So if you are looking for a husband or a wife, make sure that you in your turn are fitted to be an adequate partner. So he's saying we need to make ourselves eligible to earn what we are expecting. So he's saying you have to be prepared to take the responsibilities if it is a marriage. So both the sides, like, you need to get prepared physically. So he's saying you have to be sure that you are able physically, mentally, and spiritually to be a satisfactory partner yourself. So he's giving an example that you should be prepared. And then the last and the fifth item, what he's saying is, and he's saying that written word is stronger than the spoken word. So it is better always to be specific and write it clearly what we want, he's saying. And after that, he's saying, assuming that you have written all this down, read your statement aloud to yourself 3 times a day. There is a power gained if you can read it aloud in the quietude and privacy of your own room. Reading it in the morning before you leave leave your bedroom, read it at lunchtime and read it once again before going to sleep at night, so that 3 times a day at least you have read your affirmations, which has thus become akin to a mantra. As you read this, feel that the money or the car or whatever it is that you want is coming to you. Be positive about it. Imagine that you have the thing desired. Imagine that it is actually within your grasp. So he's saying that you should affirm it day in and day out. That's what he's saying. So, but the last important thing what he has said is, the more good you do for others, the more good you take away with you. Life on earth is hard, and one of the hardest things of all is the falsification of values. At the present time, people think that money is all that matters. So long as we have enough that we may eat, clothe ourselves, and be sheltered, that will suffice. But we can never have too much of spirituality. We can never have too much of purity of thought. We can never help others too much. For in helping others, we help ourselves. So, with that, that was the power of subconscious mind, which we read in the previous chapter. Now, moving on to lesson 23. So here, this lesson mostly is talking about imaginations, how we manipulate things by just imagining crazy things, and what all will happen with the imagination. So he's explaining that. Let's go through that. It is more regrettable that certain words have acquired such an unsavory connotation. There are a number of words which are good words, descriptive words in all languages, but which through misuse throughout perhaps centuries have undergone a complete change of meaning. We could refer to the word mistress as an illustration. So he's just giving an example with this word, how it can be misinterpreted. Just a few years ago, within the memory of our grandparents, the word mistress was an honorable one, indeed indicating a lady who was to be respected as mistress of the household, the lady of the house, a fit partner for the man of the house. By misuse, it has now acquired a meaning which is altogether different from which it originally possessed. We are not going to talk about old mistresses nor old masters, but it seemed an appropriate form of example because we're going to talk in this lesson about another word, the meaning of which has become distorted throughout the years. Imagination. Imagination is a word which now is in sore disgrace. Years ago, a man of imagination was a man of sensitive ideas, one who could write, one who could compose music or poetry. It was, in fact, absolutely essential for a gentleman to be possessed of imagination. Nowadays, it appears that imagination indicates some poor, frustrated women suffering from hysteria or on the verge of a mental breakdown. People brush off experiences which they would far better study with the exclamation, "Oh, it's all your imagination. Don't be so silly." So he's saying from where it has come to which state. Imagination in earlier days, it used to be for, creating something new, like composing music or for poetry. So they used to imagine things and they used to use the imagination powers for those things. But nowadays it has become so worse that like everybody neglects, oh, it's all your imagination, poor image. So it has come to that state that nobody respects it, or nobody's, giving that much due importance to imagination. Imagination then is a word that is in poor repute today, but controlled imagination is a key which can unlock many experiences which are at present locked in the veil of mystery which surrounds most people when they refer to occult matters. It is well to remember time and again that in any battle between the imagination and the will, it is always the imagination which wins. People pride themselves upon their willpower, upon their indomitable courage, upon the fact that nothing frightens them. They assure bored listeners that with their willpower they can do anything at all. The whole truth of the matter is that with their willpower they can do nothing unless the imagination agrees to permit it. So he's saying for anything to achieve, like imagination has to work. These people of much wanted willpower are actually those who have managed somehow, usually by accident, to let the imagination believe that a good dose of willpower would be would be useful in this particular instance. We repeat, and any competent authority will agree with us that in the matter of imagination and willpower, it is without exception imagination that wins. There is no greater power. So he's saying, along with the willpower, the imagination also is equally important for anything to be achieved. So he's saying the importance of imagination. Do you still doubt that you can will yourself to do things when your imagination does not want you to? Consider this. So he's giving an example here how willpower and imagination go simultaneously hand in hand. Let us pose a hypothetical problem because that appears to be the modern way of doing things. We have before us a straight divide of traffic. There is no traffic about. There are no curious sightseers. So we have the whole street to ourselves. Let us paint a path some 2 feet wide or 3 feet, if you prefer, from one sidewalk to the other. So he's just asking us to imagine that there is a vacant street and just asking to draw a paint with the paint 2 feet once from one side path to the other, undisturbed by the thought of avoiding traffic or unperturbed by the serious stares of onlookers. You would have not the slightest difficulty nor hesitation in stepping off one sidewalk onto your 2 or 3 feet wide path and walk sedately across the road to the other sidewalk. So he's just saying, if there is no traffic, if we don't have anything, we can just, without any hesitation, we'll just can cross the road. This would not cause your breath rate to increase. It would not cause your heart to flutter. It would be one of the simplest things you had ever been called upon to do. Will you agree with this so far? So he's saying that it is the easiest thing, like we don't have any issues with that. But again, next is going further. You can walk along the painted pathway without a thought of fear because you know that the ground is not going to give way beneath you. You know that except in the case of an earthquake or a building falling over on top of you, you are quite safe. And if by some singular misfortune you should trip and fall to the ground, no great harm would be done because you cannot fall further than your own height. So are you all there with me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So next is saying, further he'll ask to imagine, like he's explaining how imagination works. Now let us alter the picture somewhat. Let us say that we are still in the street and we move to a building which is about 20 stories high. We will get into the elevator and move upwards, up to the beautifully flat roof. As we stand off the roof and look across the street, we observe that we are quite level with another building, 20 stories high, just across from us. Oh my goodness. If we look over the wall and down at the roadway, sorry, I mistake this. Okay. If we look over the wall and down at the roadway beneath, we can just see the painted line that we made. Now we are going to have a board 2 or 3 feet wide. In other words, a board precisely as wide as our painted line. We will stretch it across the street 20 stories high across the street, and we will anchor it so firmly that it cannot move. We will anchor it so securely that it cannot sway or bounce. We will examine it most carefully to see that there is nothing at all which could trip you or make your footsteps uncertain. So he's saying, he just over the buildings, he's saying we can place on board and we have to walk. You have the same width of pathway as you did on the ground level. Can you walk across that plank, which is fixed securely 20 stories above the street, and reach the other side of the street, reach the roof of the other building? So he's saying, like how we walked on the road, like crossing the road with no traffic. And now he's saying us to imagine that whether we can walk 20 stories above and placing a plank. If your imagination says you can, then indeed you can, and without any great trouble. But if your imagination is not so complacent, then your pulse will race at the mere thought of it. You will feel butterflies in your stomach. You might even feel worse than that. But why? You have already walked across the road. So why can you not walk across this beautifully formed board? The answer is, of course, that your imagination starts working. Your imagination tells you that there is danger, that if you slip, if you falter, you will step off the edge of the board, you will fall 20 stories down to destruction. It does not matter how much one tries to reassure you, unless your imagination um, can be assured, no amount of willpower can help. If you try to assert your willpower, you might have a nervous breakdown. You will start to tremble, you will turn pale, and your breath will come in stertorous gasps. We have certain mechanisms built
Deepika,
into.
Deepika, I have a question. So he's saying first you paint the road on the ground to go across, and then you go to the 20 stories building and then put a board from one building to the other building.
Yes, that's what.
And then try the same thing.
Like horizontal, from one road to one sidewalk to the other, horizontally we'll cross. The same way, 20 stories high, and across the building we'll put the plank saying
board.
So on that we try to walk. Is it possible, he's asking, and because now he's getting in the imagination part of it. So he's saying so we have certain mechanisms built into us which protect us from danger. Certain automatic safeguards are built into the human mechanism so that a human cannot normally run into foolish danger. Imagination makes it almost impossible for a person to walk the plank, and no amount of telling would enable a person to realize that it really was perfectly safe. You need to imagine that you can do it. Until you really can imagine yourself stepping up to the plank, getting onto it, and walking firmly and confidently across, then you cannot do it. So he's saying that danger is inbuilt in us. So only the imagination that, okay, I can do it. If I can imagine walking without falling, then only it can be done. If one wills oneself to do a thing, when the imagination says no, then one does indeed risk a nervous breakdown. For we are going to repeat once again that in any battle between the imagination and the willpower, the imagination always wins. Forcing ourselves to do something when all the alarm signals are clanging within us, can wreck one's nerves, wreck one's health. So, some people are desperately afraid of passing a graveyard on a lonely road at night. If the occasion arises when they have to pass a cemetery at night, they feel their scalp tingle, their hair stands on end, their palms begin to perspire, and every perception is heightened, every impression is exaggerated, and they are indeed keyed up to make a prodigious leap to safety should the appearance of a ghost apparently call for escape. So, but here we are so strangely we see, right? All the houses are around the graveyard and cemeteries. All the people are staying here. So this is maybe only for we Indians, I guess.
That is how, like in our culture, we were brought up.
So we were told that, because the energies will be negative. Like it used to be, away from the towns and, outside the,
Yes. That is the reason that because of inbuilt fear.
Mm-hmm. Fear, and also the energies are not good. That's what we say, right? Even now also it is true. But here, I don't know, people don't have, like, it is there inside the communities also we see sometimes. Okay. So people who do not like their work and have to force themselves to do their work often bring into use an escape mechanism. Some of these escape mechanisms lead to rather weird results. They may be blessings in disguise because if warnings are not heeded, mental breakdowns can occur. We are going to relate an actual instance which is well known to us. We know the instance, we know the man, and we know the result. Here it is. So he's just giving an example how it happens, how we escape. This man of our acquaintance did a lot of standing. He stood at one of those tall desks and entered figures in a ledger. His work was such that he had to stand. The work could not be done easily sitting down. The man was competent at his job. He was good at these figures, but he had a phobia. He was truly desperately afraid that someday, somehow, he would make a mistake and perhaps be accused of embezzling a sum of money from his employers. Actually, the man was painfully honest. He was one of those rare individuals who make hard work of honesty, one of those individuals who would not even take a packet of book matches from a hotel or would not even keep a newspaper which he found on a bus seat. But even so, he was afraid that his employers did not know of his honesty, and that made him feel very bad indeed about his work. For a number of years, he went about the work becoming more and more unhappy, more and more preoccupied. He discussed a change of work with his wife, but she had no sympathy with him, and so he kept to the same job. But the imagination got to work also. First, the man got gastric ulcers. With careful attention and diet, those ulcers were cured, and he returned to work, returned to standing at a desk. It occurred to him one day that if he did not have the ability to stand, then he would not have the ability to keep that job. Some weeks later, an ulcer appeared on his foot. For a few days, he hobbled to work and endured great pain. But the ulcer got worse, and he had to remain in bed for a time. Being in bed, being away from his office, his recovery was quite speedy, and then he went back to work. All the time, his subconscious mind was nagging him. It reasoned, one supposed, something like this: well, I got out of that horrible job by having a foot complaint. They cured me too quickly, so let me have a worse foot complaint. So the worst situation is giving an example. So a few months later, after a man's return, presumably cured, he got another ulcer, this time on the ankle. It was such a bad ulcer that he could not move his ankle. Eventually, he was taken to hospital, and the ulcer became worse and worse. He had to have an operation. After this, he was discharged, cured, and went back to his job. Now the hatred of the job was growing on him. Soon another ulcer appeared, this time between the ankle and the knee. This time it was so bad, resisting all efforts to cure it, that he had to have his leg amputated at the knee. This time, to his great joy, the employer would not have him back, saying that he would not have a cripple around, a cripple who was always falling sick. The doctors at the hospital knew quite a lot about this case, and so they arranged for a man to do some other work for which he had shown considerable aptitude while in hospital. It was a form of handicraft instruction. He liked the work and had much success at it. There was now no fear that he would go to the prison for some mistakes which would cause him to be accused of embezzling. So his health improved, and so far as is known at the present time, he is carrying on this work and making a success at it. This is rather an extreme case, true, but every day we see high pressure businessmen who are in fear of their jobs, in fear of their employer, or in fear of losing face, working at high internal pressures and then seeking to escape by way of gastric ulcers. Gastric ulcers, in fact, are known as the executive's complaint. So he just gave an example how it happens. Like, see, at the cost of losing his a leg, he had to quit the job, and then, because he was fearing, like, something he imagined, he had to. So it worked so much that he had to give up his leg, and then later in the other job, he was able to find success, they're saying. So he's saying most of the people go through the same thing day in and day out. So because of the high pressure, because they don't like the job, because there is no satisfaction in the work they do, so it costs their health. It comes to the point of costing their health.
So in his case, because of his fear, he attracted the negativity.
Yes, every time, because he was thinking, though he was honest, he was just imagining, and he was thinking, like, inviting dangers, like he might be prison, he might be caught, something like that. And so because of that fears, inbuilt fears, like, and aggravating fears, so every time the ulcer used to come back, and so he used to invite the ulcer, and because of his own fears and not liking the job, also one of the reasons. So he had to forego his leg because of that. So same thing with, not having satisfaction in the job, people are losing their health. That is causing their health. That's what he's saying. So let us go further. He will explain. Imagination can topple an empire. Imagination can build an empire as well. Remember. So he's saying, so everything, imagination plays so important role. If you will cultivate your imagination and control it, you can have whatever you want. It is not possible to dictate to your imagination, not possible to tell it what it shall do, because, friend, imagination is something like friend mule. You can lead a mule, but you cannot drive him, and so can lead your imagination, but you cannot drive it. It needs practice, but it can be done. So he's saying it cannot be, we cannot drive it, but it can be, we can, imagination, we have to cultivate imagination and control it. That's what he's saying. So how to do it, he's just explaining. Well, how are you going to set about controlling imagination? It's only a matter of faith, of practice. Think of some situation which excites your fear or your distaste, and then overcome it by faith, by persuading your imagination that we can do a thing no matter what others can or cannot do. Persuade yourself that you are some special sort of being. If you like, it does not matter what method you adopt to yourself, so long as you get your imagination working on your behalf. Let us revert to our original illustration about crossing the street. So he's just going back to the older example of crossing the street or the plank. Let us decide that we can easily cross the street on a 2-foot plank resting across the roadway. So he's saying if the plank was, instead of being on the roof, from roof to roof, if it is there on the road, we can just easily cross. Then by faith, by thinking that we are not as others, we can persuade our imagination that we can cross the plank even though it be elevated 20 stories above the ground. Think of this. Tell yourself that even a more or less brainless monkey can cross that plank with no fear at all. Who is better? You are a brainless monkey. If a brainless monkey or a person who is almost an idiot can cross that plank, then surely you, a much better person, can do so also. It is merely a question of practice, of having faith. In the past, there have been famous tightrope walkers such as Blondin, who crossed a rope many times over the Niagara Falls. Blondin was just an ordinary man who had faith in his abilities. He had faith that he could cross where other men could not. He knew that the only thing to be afraid of was of being afraid. He knew that if he was confident of going across, then he could cross no matter if he was pushing a wheelbarrow or if he was blindfolded. I don't know. Have you heard of this person, Blondin? They're saying he crossed the.
Yeah. I saw him almost 20 years ago or 25 years. Even, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, how did he go? Did he go on the wheelbarrow or he was blindfolded?
No, on a rope.
Okay.
He crossed from one side to the other.
Okay.
From US border to Canadian border, I think.
Wow. So that's what he's saying. He was pushing a wheelbarrow, or if he was blindfolded, he was thinking he can do it. So maybe that's how he did the crossing. We all get the same sort of experience. We climb up a long ladder, and as long as we look up, we experience no fear. But as soon as we look down, the thought occurs to us that we could make an awfully bad mess if we fell off the ladder and then crashed. Our imagination then pictures ourselves falling, pictures us being smeared many, many feet below. Our imagination might picture us clinging too tightly to that ladder that we cannot free ourselves. Steeplejacks have had that type of experience. If you control your imagination by building up faith in your own abilities, you can do anything. You cannot succeed in overcoming your imagination by force. Exercising your willpower will not overcome your imagination. It will instead build up a neurosis within you. Remember once again, that you must at all times lead your imagination, control your imagination. If you try to drive your imagination, you will fail. If you will lead your imagination, you will be able to do all things which you thought would be impossible for you. First of all, though, believe that there is no such thing as impossible. So he's saying we have to lead our imagination and not, we have to try to control and lead, but not try to drive. So that's how, if we are able to lead our imaginations in a positive and in a good direction, then nothing is impossible, he's saying. So that, with that, we end the chapter, lesson 23. So it's quite simple and it was very clear, right?
Yeah. Basically, positive.
Yes, not much. So, but it is a great eye opener. Imagination, how it can take both the ways, either down or either up.
Yeah, we all talk about imagination, and then the fact that like how the author puts it in the situation is really interesting. Like you never thought about so deeply imagination. Oh, okay, you imagine this and you imagine that, but
yes.
Imagination makes so much of
difference in life.
In your,
yeah, that's what he's saying. That is why he started with saying this so many words have been misused or completely have undergone a change. So that's how he started this chapter, saying some words are misused. So this is one of the words. So yeah, very true. We never imagined that imagination plays such an important role in one's lives, and how it is going hand in hand with willpower.
Yeah.
See, that's why some people they're scared of heights. They're scared of going onto the mountains, to climb. I think that inbuilt fear.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. By our faith, by building our faith, and by inspiring ourselves,
inculcating that positiveness.
So
positive attitude.
Building that confidence and faith, and we have to overcome. So this must be useful for me for this season, because every time I always, whenever the season comes, I think, the depression cycle starts.
The winter time.
Winter time it sets in. So how much ever, like, I've been trying, but somehow it is, a
lot of people when they don't see the sunlight, changes the mood.
And we keep saying, right, like we have to be connected with the nature. Whenever we're not feeling good, connect with the nature, it cures, or it. So that time it is not at all possible to step out. So it becomes very difficult to get back to nature or get that feeling of
that
warmth or something. Warmth or something, and it becomes too difficult. So today the weather has started becoming gloomy. So I was just thinking, oh my God, again it is setting in. So now this chapter is a good learning that this time I need to imagine and have faith and
imagine
good things.
Imagine the summer is going to come.
Yes. That's how.
Or believe, I would say.
Yeah. Yes. True. Good one. Thank you for giving